Yellowstone Volcano Eruption, Death Zone. Millions stranded as volcano wipes out the US. This is by Sebastian Ketley on Express UK. I found this just recently. This is an article concerning where the areas of the United States will be impacted in case of an eruption. We're talking about a super eruption, of course, not a normal or a smaller eruption. And I think this is apropos. I'm not fear-mongering, because of the fact that we had a 5 magnitude earthquake a few days ago, which they immediately downsized to a whopping 4.4. Others had it at a 4.9 or 5, other geological surveys worldwide. But the one thing that shocks me is that they did not refer to this 4.4 earthquake at all in their Caldera Chronicles that came out yesterday. And I was very surprised at that. They did refer to the fact that Yellowstone has seen a number of various eruptions, and every time they talk about past eruptions, I've noticed that they talk about more and more eruptions having taken place. And the fact that they have a tremendous amount of deformation and quakes and geothermal activity. But their number of eruptions since the 630,000 years ago seem to be increasing rapidly. Why is that? Why do they keep coming up with new numbers every time? But again, I'm telling you, one thing I'm very shocked at is that they were not clear. They didn't even mention the fact that they had a 4.4 earthquake. The last time they had a 4.3, 4.5 earthquake was about 35 years ago. And that was a big thing. They got all flustered and stressed because they were very pensive about what that could mean. And now one of my viewers a few days ago, about a day after the 5 magnitude that was downgraded to a 4.4, told me that one of the people that he knows works for the USGS, and he works there and for the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, and he quit because he did not agree that they downgraded the 5 magnitude so much, and the fact that they don't want to inform anybody of what that could mean. He did not agree with that stance, that procedure of theirs, so he quit because he doesn't want to be involved in a cover-up of some kind, or the fact that they're hiding things, or the fact that they're not being transparent about certain things and what they can mean. So good for him. That was good. He quit because he doesn't want to be any part of their misinforming people intentionally. So it's not, what should we say, not knowing. The fact is that they're intentionally covering something up. So here we are now. What would happen if this thing explodes? Devastating Yellowstone volcano eruption, the supervolcano simulations predict no one in the United States would be safe from feeling the effects of the cataclysm. The biggest cause for concern outside of Yellowstone's immediate vicinity is the hazardous downfall of the volcanic ash. Clues hidden in past Yellowstone eruptions from hundreds of thousands of years ago paint an incredible, hopeless future. Let's remember that the Huckleberry Finn Ridge, that thing there, is over 30 feet of ash. 30 feet, that's a 10-story building full of ash everywhere. Can you imagine the whole of the areas being filled with under 30 feet of ash? I mean, nothing will be left. No trees, no water, the air, the animals, forget it. Life would be gone. Clues hidden in past Yellowstone eruptions give us this. Geological evidence found buried in the ground suggest the extent of Yellowstone's ash emissions would spread from coast to coast. Experts in the U.S. Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, warned back in 2015, the resulting damage would amount to staggering sums of money lost. Doug Bosch, a senior scientist at FEMA, said, quote, "In terms of direct economic damages, a $3 trillion number is reasonable for the event. It's about 20% of our U.S. gross domestic product." 20%? Well, I would venture to say it's more. He's being very conservative here. The FEMA experts drafted 6 plausible ash fallout zones across the U.S. to map out the far-reaching effects of Yellowstone spewing ash. It's not just the United States, it would also concern Canada as well. And look, if you look at the maps here, you can see the Great Lakes, which are, they're not saltwater, they're freshwater lakes. They're affected as well, the Great Lakes region, and all of the major, of course, water supplies of the United States are also affected. Now, you have Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, Zone 4, 5, 6. Zone 1 would extend up to 80 kilometers from the eruption, blasting the ground with sweltering hot gases up to 3 meters of volcanic ash, 3 meters at 10 feet of volcanic ash. That's 10 feet would be definitely over one floor, a one-story house. And at temperatures of over 400 degrees Celsius. Let's remember that boiling point is 100 degrees Celsius. So it's 4 times hotter than boiling for water. Some 70,000 people found in this area of impact, and unfortunately the direct effects of the eruption are not survivable. West Yellowstone and Mammoth were named as the 2 major cities in Zone 1. Further out from Zone 1, the survivability prospects begin to increase, but local wildlife and agriculture would suffer irreparable losses for years to come, and of course water. In fact, a 2014 study argued Yellowstone's ash fallout would damage building integrity, obstruct waterways, and even interfere with electronic communications. The bleak study published by USGS scientist Larry Maston said cities within 500 kilometers, such as Billings, Montana, and Casper, are covered by tens of centimeters to more than a meter of ash, meter being 3 feet. Upper Midwest cities such as Memphis and Des Moines receive centimeters, and those in the eastern Gulf Coast receive millimeters or less. Californian cities receive millimeters to centimeters, and Pacific Northwest cities of Portland and Seattle receive up to a few centimeters. According to FEMA, even in Zone 6, which extends more than 800 kilometers away from the mega blast, Yellowstone's ash would still have devastating effects. Buildings would likely suffer minor damages in the fallout, cars would lose traction on roads, and the ensuing lack of food and communication could collapse livestock production. The estimated ash fallout in Zone 6 is between 1 and 6 centimeters. Thankfully, there is absolutely no indication that Yellowstone supervolcano is anywhere near blowing up. Jacob Lowenstern, a research geologist at U.S. Geological Survey, said Yellowstone erupting in our lifetime is an unlikely scenario, he says. And he said again, it's not impossible to rule out, but it's a remote possibility. Geoscientist Christy Till agreed, underlining all signs of activity at Yellowstone are normal. There are no signs of eruption, as some media outlets report. Okay, but still, okay, you said this, but let's not forget that NASA even chimed in, claiming that they would be willing to lessen the chance of Yellowstone erupting by drilling holes into the areas around the magma chamber and pumping in some cold material to freeze it, to cool it down. And of course, senior geologist at Yellowstone, Mr. Polak, if I remember the name correctly, doesn't want anyone going near Yellowstone or touching it in any which way, no matter who they are, because that means that you could turn out harming the magma chambers, and we would have what we are fearing of. That is an eruption. So why would NASA chime in to try and mitigate and cool down Yellowstone if it was not a potential problem for the near future? Okay, so I'll leave links below for you for this on Express UK. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.